Let's see. Looks like we're live. Hey guys, it's Rich. Thanks for joining me on Kansas City's Networking Connection. I'll be your host today. I'm with Bobby Spags, and Bobby has got an interesting story and a guy I've known for quite a long time. Before we get into that, I've got our standard, non-standard disclaimer. So let's get that out of the way. For the record, we are not, nor will we ever, giving legal investment health advice on this channel. Our opinions are our own. And if you need those services, you should seek competent advisors in those fields. This information is presented for entertainment purposes only. You have been warned. And then the basis for this group is the Zig Ziglar quote: you can get everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. And that's what I do. I have the most amazing friends out there, and I think everybody should know them and what they do. So, Bobby, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody and kind of tell them what you're about, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Like you said, my name is Bobby Spags. I've been in Kansas for a very long time. That's where Rich and I met. I actually own some of Rich's holster material I carry on a regular basis. My background, I was in the military, Army for 16 years, military police officer. During that time, I did several tours stateside and overseas during the War on Terror. I was also the vice president of a preparedness organization called the Kansas Prepper Expo, which then kind of morphed into full spectrum preparedness. And it was, imagine a gun show, but with almost no guns. There was a few gun dealers, but we kept it more to, tables that would educate people on long-term food solutions, water purification, solar, wind power, things of that nature.
And that's where we met.
I'm sorry?
And that's where we met.
That's where we met. You were a vendor at our third show.
I was doing the freeze-dried food then.
Yeah, you do freeze-dried food, and you had just introduced your Cover 6 gear stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's still one of the best holsters I've ever owned. And
thank you, I appreciate that.
I still use it all the time. So there's that.
The biggest problem with those is they never fall apart. I mean,
right.
Once you buy one, you don't have to buy another one, and it's a terrible business model.
It's a terrible business model. You don't make holsters the way the Chinese make your refrigerators.
Now I know why they make them that way.
I'm pretty certain that's by design.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh, you're good. But now I work for myself. I am a LLC holder. I do basically contracting work, and I do consulting work. I currently am a 1099 contractor for a company here in Kansas called EMP Shield. I do consulting for them and external sales for them, essentially out in the out away from the factory and not on the phones.
Awesome. And the other thing too, you're kind of like becoming the biggest hit on Permapastures Farm YouTube page. I was watching that video with you guys the other day, and apparently there was some lady whose husband's in prison and is infatuated with you. And I thought, man, this is like Days of Our Lives.
I think she emailed him and was like, "Is Bobby single? I'm about to be. My husband's on death row." And I was like, "Oh my God." It was good.
What a hot mess to be a part of, right?
Right. Yeah, I do a lot of public speaking. I do a lot of podcasts on YouTube, or a podcast and then YouTube stuff with friends of mine. Billy's an old friend of ours from you've met Billy too. I believe. Back in the day when he was Landmine Billy in Kansas City, I was on the radio. Yeah,
and that's the thing, Billy. I love that channel. If you guys get a chance, Permapastures Farm, I'm gonna try to interview Billy at some point, because he's doing amazing stuff over there, and he really tries to keep it like apolitical and just about his homestead, and that's really kind of what I'm doing now, and in between real estate and all my other stuff. But I really love the information that you're giving him on that channel and that he's providing for people. And I mean, I'm seriously, I don't do many Patreon things, but he's the one that I'm thinking about joining his Patreon just because of the information that he's giving out.
Yeah, his stuff is real good. Like I said, I've done 2 interviews with him. I did a phone interview with him once, so I'm up to 3 interviews with just his channel. There's also another, if I'm allowed to plug a friend.
Oh yeah, no, please.
A guy I work with, actually, his name is he goes by Tag, and he has a channel called Life Done Free, and you might actually want to talk to him. Since you're in real estate, he has his whole house, his whole everything is off grid, 100% solar, 100% rain collection. He doesn't even have a technical address. So, and he built it all by hand himself. So, I mean, if you ever wanted someone to talk about that stuff, he'd be the way to go too.
I'd love, I mean, somebody that, you know, the diverse friends that I have, somebody else wants to know about it too. So
sure.
I'll get that information from you on the side. And before I forget, Bobby's information is in the box in there to the description. So if you go in there, you want to reach out to him about something, just go down there and find the contact information and be sure to tell him where you found him. So anyway, so continue. Now we got through all the other stuff, right? Because now you're kind of a subcontractor for EMP Shield. You can't speak on behalf of the company.
Right. I'm not their public spokesperson or their director of sales and marketing. I just work for them. I've gotten to know their product, and I pretty much help them travel around the state and even country to talk about the product with other people.
And so before we get into my other questions, why don't you explain, because there might be people on here who don't know what an EMP is. So why don't you give the 30,000 foot version of it, and then we'll go into the other questions.
Sure. The short answer is a high altitude EMP is when a nuclear weapon is detonated roughly 30 kilometers or so above the surface of the earth. It's estimated that one sizable bomb detonated right here over us in Kansas would essentially wipe out the electric grid for the entire country. So we our EMP Shield produces devices to help defend your homes and your electrical systems against that. And there's 3 phases to an EMP, E1, E2, and E3, and we're rated to go through all 3 of them.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't even imagine the testing that was involved in that, because it's not, recreating an EMP is quite an ordeal. We just got done
going through a whole series of tests out in California at a place called Meditech. Dr. Radowski, who's actually like the godfather of all things EMP, sat on the EMP commission. He briefed presidents from Carter on the threat of EMP, is the one who tested our stuff. So
okay, awesome. Yep. Well, so let's get into the regular questions, and then if we have other questions later, we can follow up. But so how did this start with you and what you're doing now?
Well, I was a contractor for the National Guard here in Kansas, and I worked for about 3 years in that field. And it was an okay job. It was easy. I mean, it was a typical COVID, the 2 years of COVID made it real easy. I was working from home, which consisted of me checking an email and taking a phone call once in a while. But I wasn't allowed to do my job because most of it involved going out into the community and putting on and organizing events that would bring in people. And the median age of the people I worked with was probably 60. And so because of COVID and because of their age and because of travel restrictions, I couldn't do my job. And then late last year, the talk of the mandates came out, and I'm not taking a position on the thing itself, but I most certainly am a man that believes in individual choice, and I will not be told that I have to do something, especially when it comes to the sanctity of my own body. And so at that point, it was a line in the sand for me.
I know I liked you.
I hadn't done enough research to know. And most of the research I showed that there was more net negatives than net positives. That may or may not be true. I am not an expert, but I'm not going to be told I have to put something into my body after it's been around on the global scale for approximately 5 minutes. And so I basically told my employer at that point, here's my 2 weeks notice. I'm not doing it. And I was perfectly ready to be poor. I was perfectly ready to not have a job for a while because I knew the job market, especially with the things I specialize in, was kind of weak at the time. And luckily, guy from EMP Shield, who I've been friends with for a while, met through the same expos you and I met, called me the next day and said, let's have lunch. So we went and had lunch, and within a few weeks I was signed up with them. So there was never even a lag. I didn't go a single day. He pretty much, they pretty much saved me from being unemployed. So
that's awesome. And it's a great product too. So, and something that you believe in, which, how perfect is that? So,
I know I get to work with other preppers all day long,
some
preppers, but if you know a few of the people there, you've met them at the expo. So a handful of them are preppers or homesteaders or, all that.
They're into that mindset of they don't want to be on the downside of something bad.
Right. So I get to work with people I know and like, and I get to work with the product I absolutely believe in. So it's actually, and I work for myself while doing it. So it's like all the things about individual liberty and freedom all at once, including the risks. So it's truly something that someone like me would be into.
That's awesome. That's where I can't work for corporate America anymore because they have burned me out on, hey, look, you're not doing it right. And I'm like, I'm the number one salesperson in the company, but I'm not doing it right. Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
So
I never thought I would be self-employed. I never saw myself here. I always figured I would have to work for somebody because, again, no college degree. Everything I do is with my hands or talking. And so I always figured I'd work for someone, but actually being given the opportunity to work for myself and then taking that opportunity was amazing.
So and now the second question is how long you've been doing it? You started just recently, right?
October of last year. Uh-huh.
Awesome.
So right around 6 months.
Right. What was the biggest issue with getting started?
I was in the construction industry for a while, and so I know carpentry, painting, some tile work, but the two areas I never specialized in or even tried to get into was plumbing and electricity. And so now I work in a field that is driven entirely on electricity. So, being 42, when I took the job, I'm like, man, I'm going to have to learn something new. And this is an area that I have historically considered a weak point of mine. So getting past the verbiage and learning how things worked and how our product interfaced with systems already in place was a little bit of a learning curve, but it didn't take that long. And honestly, I'm pretty glad I did it.
You should have called me. I could have given you the basics. If you touch the black wire and the white wire at the same time,
right,
you get lit up.
Don't touch it with your tongue.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So did anybody tell you that this wouldn't work?
Oh yeah, there's plenty of people there are lots of naysayers out there, but we just had a white paper that's about to be released from the same testing lab I just told you about that's going to definitively say what we have. Awesome. We've got a wall at the company just full of product that's come back from lightning strikes and saved hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff.
Well, that's good to know. I mean, lightning strikes are a real issue. I mean, and so if it's protecting from that as well, I mean, it's not just the EMP.
All overages, EMP, coronal mass ejections, which we're going into that period in the sun's cycle where CMEs are going to be happening a lot.
Well, and our magnetic shielding doesn't seem to be I mean, everything's kind of off a little bit from what I've seen.
Right. So, CMEs, dirty electricity from a generator, overage coming from your utility provider, lightning, any kind of overage, essentially, we can protect you from.
Awesome. And then I think I know the answer to this one. Do you love what you do now?
Yes, very much.
I figured. Nobody ever says no on that, Like
I know.
I'm not interviewing those people, I guess. Yeah.
I get to set my own hours. I make good money. I work with people I like. This is horrible.
Yeah. I mean, that's nobody should have to suffer through that job. So, so, and I think we covered this a little bit, but how did you find that job? It was basically networking, wasn't it?
Pretty much. It was all about networking.
Yeah.
The older I get, the more I realize that the old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know, actually is a very true thing.
100%. And if you're a good person, people want you in their industry or in their group. So if you're not a dirtbag, I mean, everybody knows the dirtbag, and nobody wants to have them as part of their organization. So if you just be a nice, normal person, you got a pretty good chance of somebody going, I'd like to work with that guy.
Right. Just treat people well.
I don't get that a lot.
The world's big enough.
Nobody wants to work with me.
Treat people well. Yeah.
So So if someone watching wanted to follow in the same career path, would you recommend doing it the same way, or is there a better way?
This is the only way I've done it, so I really don't know of another way to do it other than starting out that way. But
sure,
if you are willing to do something that will give you as much personal freedom as possible while understanding that it will be the highest risk thing you've ever done, then I would absolutely say you should do it. If you're someone who believes in self-determination, you believe in carving your own path out in the world, like you said, not working for corporate America or for the system, then by all means, form your own LLC or your own company and go out there and then work for yourself. Find a way to take your strengths and market that towards the folks who would hire you.
And I think it's, a lot of perspective too. I tell people all the time, whatever we're doing will never be as hard as the founders of this country going, hey, England,
right.
And we're signing this document and we're going to stick to it.
I mean, the truth is, I mentioned earlier that it can be scary to do this, and in a way it is, but at the same time, it's not like we're facing fear in 2022 in the developed world the way people, like you said, 200, 250, 300 years ago, just existing, you were this. And if you didn't grow your corn or kill the wolves or make treaties with the locals, you were going to die. At least today we have something to fall back on. I can go back to dumpster diving if I need to.
Like the fox that's eating my chickens now. And you know, that would be a real issue back in the day, right? I can just go buy more chickens now. I'll get the fox eventually. But back then it's like, well, town's 30 miles that way and the horse is really slow.
Right. And the road isn't very, bumpy, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, even potholes
today. We're doing pretty good.
Right. So, what do you need help with now? People out there watching this, what do you need help with? Anything that you could tell them, hey, look, this is something I could really use help with.
As in me personally?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, like with your business or life or whatever in general.
If you know electricians, send them my way. I need to speak with electricians. I need to try to get electricians to be part of our network, and that make, if they're a friend of yours, or if you are an electrician and you want to be in the network of installers, so we can recommend, we get people all the time who are like, I just bought your product. Will you install it? Well, we're out of Burlington, Kansas. We can't travel the world installing this. We're trying to network with electricians right now so that if someone, let's say in Abilene, buys one and they're like, hey, is there someone local? We want to be able to say, sure, there's 3 electricians in your city right now that we can recommend to come install this for you. So that's probably the big thing.
I think that's good. So if you guys, electricians or no electricians who want to be certified installers, I think, especially with even just the stuff going on, not to fearmonger, to be realistic with what's going on around the world right now, that EMP Shield is a product that you ought to be thinking about. I mean, we're going to put one on the solar side and on the house side as soon as we get the solar installed. So it's part of the plan, because you just don't even realize how, if you don't have any power, things go bad fast.
Yep.
So let me see here. We got
and just having the ability to reconnect to power. That's one of the biggest pushbacks is, well, my house is protected. Something happens. What good is my house being protected? And it's like, well, the governments of the world aren't just sitting idly by doing nothing and making no plans. If this were to happen, there are plans in place, probably a series of overlapping plans to bring everything back online at some point. And you can either be ready to plug back in, or you can spend 30 to 40 grand to rewire your house to plug back in.
Right. Yeah. Well, if the materials are available.
And that's another big thing. We had a pump house in Jackson County that got struck by lightning, and our unit saved a $65,000 water pump and 1,200 some people from being without water for God knows how long.
Right.
And when we were talking to the director of that water district, he said, right now with the shipping crisis, it would have taken us 2 months to potentially get parts. So they would have had to have rerouted power through something else, thus temporarily weakening that portion of the grid by overtaxing it, or people would have been on a boil order for how long,
Yeah, no, right. I mean, that's the thing. People don't realize, and I didn't know it. I mean, I had a good idea, but, being on the city council really opened my eyes to, there's just not a lot of just extra stuff laying around.
There isn't.
Like the transformer that, is over there at $1.2 million. And hey, we need to replace that. It's going to take 18 months to order it from China.
Sure.
And that was when things were smooth.
Right. And then also just consider the pain in the butt factor. I have friends at one of the local police departments that we're talking to about this product, and they were telling us how they got struck by lightning a few years ago, and it took out one of their air conditioner compressors, and it was like $125,000 part. Jeez. And because the station is in an old building that's been basically refurbished into the police station, they had to take out walls and doors just to move the old giant part out that was, craned in when the building was way back in the 60s. And I'm like, a $300 box would have saved you all that trouble and all that money.
No kidding, man. What a deal. I mean, that's cheese. So let's see here. So this is an interesting one. Do you have a mentor?
Yes, actually, I have several. The guy that I'll use code names just because that's what we do. The guy that I
Sargon?
left seat with he goes by Data.
Okay.
He was the guy that was tasked to bring me up to speed when I took the job, and now him and I have become extremely good friends. We finish each other's sandwiches, and we right seat, left seat everywhere. And then the guy who did the hiring for me, who happens to be tagged from Life Done Free, has always kind of been a mentor. Even back in the expo days, he used to come in and give us a little bit of counsel on running the show and on becoming more streamlined and efficient. So I would say that those two guys, for sure, I would look up to as mentors.
And then you found them through networking, I guess. Is that
exactly the expos? And then EMP Shield.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the thing, Bobby. I got to give you mad props. You were putting those shows on when, like, I don't even remember how I found the expo. Because this is like, people take it for granted what we have now as far as, like me getting on Facebook and doing a live stream or YouTube or whatever. I mean, back then it was like, was it meetup.com?
I don't remember where we had started on Facebook, but the pages and groups were kind of like still coming into their own, and there was a lot of issues with them.
I mean, we're talking 12 years ago.
But I think that the guy at the time who helped start it may have done something on meetup.com. I don't remember.
Yeah,
but there was a message board of some kind that wasn't, Facebook at the time that started it on.
And it was just I'm sitting there thinking about how I can't remember how I found it, but it wasn't like it is now where like there's an organized Facebook group or
right
LinkedIn group or whatever. I mean, it was like you had to go searching.
Yep.
It was difficult. So
yeah, we were part of the movement to spearhead making all of that easy. Yeah. By the time we were done, there were established pages all over the place that we helped local groups create, that we created and then passed off, and we helped create quite a network.
And you're still part of that group, which is great. I mean, I know you guys are going to do a camp out or something coming up, aren't you?
Yeah, next weekend, actually, out of Perry Lake. Okay.
So, and that's the thing, guys, that, I got to give Bobby mad props on this. Not only does he, start this group of preppers and I probably would have been more involved if I hadn't done the gun show thing. Cause like you guys do all your stuff on the weekend. Cause I was the only guy who was working weekends for the most part, like on a regular basis. But, they're taking their bug out bags and going out camping like, hey, look, if we had to use these bags, do we have everything to make it through the weekend so everybody can go, God, I need this or that or the other thing, so that if there is a problem, they can actually solve it. I think you made like flour out of dandelions or something one time.
Yeah, we showed how to use dandelions to make, I think, 12 different dishes. Flour was one, fried food.
I missed that. I really wanted to attend that because I had a bunch of dandelions at the time, and I
I still do. I don't spray pesticides or herbicides in my yard just because I have ducks and I have a lot of water, so I can't do it. But I also I kind of had this thing where I like bees and pollinators.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of enjoy them being around. So I have dandelions covering my backyard every year, and I just let them go. I don't care. Yeah. Sometimes we'll pluck them and we'll wash them and we'll do all the stuff just for fun, just to, show that it can be done.
Yeah. And then, so how can people get a hold of you beyond, everything's down there in the comments, but why don't you tell everybody right here?
I am on MeWe. That is the only social media that I am on other than LinkedIn. LinkedIn is professional. I really don't do a whole lot there other than doing some promotional stuff for the company once in a while. But if you want to get to know me on a personal level, be part of the preparedness projects and stuff, you can find me on MeWe. I go by Bobicus Spagsicus. I can text that over to Rich, and he can put it in the description if he wants. But you will not find me on Bookface or Twitter Pated or Instaban or TikTok or any of that, because I just won't be spoken to in those terms by a bunch of technocrat nerds. I stay on a free speech platform only.
So, and before I let you go, is there anything else we didn't cover that you'd like to let everybody else know about?
If you're in the Northeast Kansas area and you're interested to come see the camp out, it'll be out at Perry Lake up in Northeast Kansas, just north, I think, of Lecompton, northeast of Topeka. Takes about 25 minutes to get there from my house, and I have a Topeka address. It's from the 21st to the 24th of April. We're going to have classes. We're going to have some local shoot houses come out and give some medical classes. I'm giving a class on logistics, and some other friends that you remember Pete. Pete's giving a barter class. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to be giving, and we also have this time on Saturday specifically called Barter Town, where you're not allowed to use money, but everyone goes and sets up tables and puts out a whole bunch of the stuff that they have that's extra, and everyone goes around and barters. And we also have a box of stuff, and we let the kids come and grab out of it, and then they can go learn to barter with other people at the tables and learn how to deal without using fiat currency to get some of the things you might need.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, I'm a huge fan of barter. I love to do it. I mean, in fact, it was the I hope no IRS people are watching, but during my time as a holster manufacturer, it was the best way for me to get my product into a store, because I could go in and go, hey, look, you need stock. We don't want to spend any money on that. I go, hey, well, okay, there's a firearm right there. Why don't I trade you? We'll just do retail for retail.
Yep.
I'll give you, you're asking whatever number is for that. I don't care if it's overpriced or whatever. I'll give you retail to retail.
Yep.
And then it's in there, right? I win on that deal, man, as a manufacturer.
All the time, man.
I mean, what a deal. And I got a gun,
I still see your business cards. Like I'm really good friends with Scott Harrison.
Oh, yeah.
Out there in Linden at Harrison Shooter Supply, and your cards are in there. Your product is still in his store. Every time I go in there, I'm like, I got one of those.
Oh man, I miss hanging out with those guys. I mean, that's the thing with the gun shows, but
the show lifestyle takes a lot out of you, man.
My house and COVID really killed that whole thing.
It did.
I mean, God, I couldn't believe how bad it was. But the other thing, when President Trump was in, like, nobody was buying guns. It was the weirdest thing.
Oh, I know. That was ironically one of my biggest pet peeves, was how people just all of a sudden got real comfortable. I'm like, just because the side isn't in the one office doesn't mean there's not 435 more of them over in this other branch of government.
It was great. It was great because I took advantage of some really great ammo deals I found.
Yes. Oh God.
When nobody was buying, it was like all that stuff's piling up, and I'm like, I can take it off your hands for next to nothing, I guess. Exactly. So, but anyway, I encourage you guys to reach out to Bobby. He's a great guy, and he's a wealth of knowledge. And then let Billy know that I want to interview him too, because I think it'll be fun.
Okay.
So
I'll reach out to him. I talk to him probably 2 or 3 times a week, so I'll let him know.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. And if you need anything, be sure to go down into the description, and all of Bobby's contact info is there. And then be sure to share this with all your friends. So thanks a lot, guys, for tuning in. Have a great day.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks again, Bobby.